Here we go, episode 5, Virgin Birth. It's not in the Hebrew Scriptures. If you are happy with your Christian faith, please stop watching my videos. You do not need what I am offering. If you're not seeking change, it's going to be a waste of time. But if you are leaving Christianity because things don't make sense and you're up for a Jewish interpretation of Jesus, this could be for you. I don't claim to have it all figured out, but you're welcome to sojourn with me. And that's the last time I'm doing that intro there with the warning there. All right, if you've followed me so far, I appreciate that. If this is the first video you're watching of me, chances are it's going to be helpful for you to watch the previous videos. Not that I'm trying to grow the channel per se, but I think especially episode 2, where it's called Jesus in a Different Light, and episode 3, Trinity via Constantine. I think those two videos are important to understand where I'm coming from. I'm not necessarily. This is gonna sound bad, but a virgin birth or not a virgin birth, it doesn't really matter to me. The goal in this video is to show that the concept of the virgin birth comes from one verse and one verse only, and also the word doesn't actually the word virgin isn't there. If you look at the Hebrew, we'll go into it, but it again, God can do whatever He wants. It doesn't bother me per se that Jesus was born of a virgin. I don't think that's the case, but I'm not gonna, whatever, whichever works. I just don't see it in Tanakh. So I'm going to try to read my notes, which are over here on a computer, so hopefully it'll all make sense. So why does the church believe in a virgin birth? Where does that come from? It comes from the Septuagint, which is a Greek translation from Hebrew to Greek, and it was written around 200 BCE. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what they say. And why was there a need for a Greek translation? Well, actually, I'm not going to do. Okay, yeah, I will. I'll read some of my notes. I feel like I can do this without my notes, but we'll see. There's the whole Hellenistic idea or Hellenistic concept that was super prevalent in the Middle East at that time. So you have in Israel, lots of Jewish people were converting to be Greeks. There was a lot of social pressure to do that. For you to fit in, you needed to be Greek. The pressure was so bad, where I have read a story of people trying to reverse the effects of circumcision. If you are Greek, you go to the gymnasium. You go to the gymnasium and you're naked. And so there were Jewish people that were trying to reverse that. Don't necessarily quote me on that, but that's what I've read. And maybe that's true, maybe that isn't. What is true though is that there was a ton of pressure for people to convert. So you have people speaking Greek, being Greek. Like Jewish people, they'd go to synagogue on Saturdays and read some Hebrew, but they didn't speak in Hebrew. They were speaking probably Aramaic and Greek, but Greek was the common language at that time. And so let's dive into Isaiah 7:14. And this is, yeah, I do need my notes. Here we go. I thought I was cool, but I need my notes. So 7:14, it says, "Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. A virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel." There's a couple problems with this verse. One, the tense. The way it's translated, it's said in a future tense, as if it's something that is to happen in the future. That comes from the way they decided to translate the verse. So it's a future tense. So the baby will be conceived. It will. But in Hebrew, it could be will, or it could be also, it could be not a future tense, or it could be done as a past tense. It's how you translate it, and that's the problem with just translations in general. Is you have words from Hebrew that don't quite exactly line up, so they pick words that are similar, not exactly the same, but similar. And so in this verse, we're gonna focus on the word virgin. And if you look up the word virgin I always use the Blue Letter Bible, and so I go to Blue Letter Bible, type in Isaiah 7:14. It'll bring up the verse, and then you can click into the actual word. And in this case, it's the Strong's Concordance number on this is H5959. So, in that word is Almah. So the word virgin there is Almah. And in Strong's Concordance, you have three definitions in there. The first definition is virgin, young woman. The next one is a young woman of marriageable age. The next one is a maid or a newly married woman, lady. What's really interesting, if you look at the masculine version, so that was the feminine version. In the masculine version, of the same word, which is the Strong's Concordance number on that one is just one number down, so it's H5958. The definition of that word alm, not alma, in Hebrew, the female is alma, male is alm, and the definition of that is young man. Just one definition. And we're not used to masculine and feminine or neuter in English. I kind of became an English nerd because I had to learn how to read, write, and talk again when I was 18, and I was trying to figure out, why is English so confusing? And English used to have those tenses. In 1066, when the Normans invaded from France, they invaded into England, and you had Old English or Anglo-Saxon being spoken in England, and you have the Normans coming in speaking French, and you have these two languages that are having to merge together. And what normally happens when languages have to merge, they get simplified. And so English pretty much just simplified, and we got rid of, by the time when Middle English became a thing, that was the tenses were gone. They're not tenses. The genders were gone. There was no longer a male, female, neuter, or masculine, feminine, and neuter. That disappeared. But most languages in the world have that. Hebrew definitely does. I mean, so does Spanish. I think most people in America are familiar with Spanish. You've got niña and niño, and the definition is exactly the same in Spanish, except the gender is different. So niña is girl, niño is boy, but there's not extra terminology. So in Strong's Concordance, you have alm, which is a young man, and then you have alma that has extra. I don't want to say weight, but has extra definitions. There are people yelling in my house, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but that's cool. So it sounds like happy stuff, not yelling or not fighting, but anyway. So you have that extra definition of the word alma. Why? Where does that come from? The only reason you would have extra meaning there is if you are trying to squeeze some information into something that doesn't exist. So from my perspective, Strong's Concordance, if you were to look at a Hebrew dictionary, it's not going to say Alma and say something about virginity. It's going to say a young woman. But with Strong's, with the religious connotations in there, they have more definition, more meaning in there. So let me read this. Says so the Hebrew word Isaiah 7:14 uses Alma, a term for a young unmarried woman of marriageable age, not specifically a virgin, which actually the word for that is Betula, I think. Betula. If Isaiah 7:14 was supposed to be translated as virgin, there is a word in Hebrew for virgin, and they did not use that word. They did not use the word for virgin. They used the word for young woman. Well, how did that happen? Well, let's look at the Septuagint. The 70 translators of the Septuagint decided to use the word, they look at the word Alma, and instead of using Alma, because obviously you want to use a Greek word, the word that they used is, and my Greek is non-existent, so if I mispronounce this, I apologize. Parthenos. So the word Alma is translated to Parthenos, and let's look at some what Parthenos means. While Parthenos can mean young woman, it carries a strong connotation of being a virgin, especially contrast to Alma. That doesn't mean that. So the writers of the New Testament, the New Testament was, I'm trying to think if all of it was written in Greek. I think it was. There's some people would say that there is a Hebrew version of Matthew somewhere, but we don't have that, and I'm 99.9% sure all of the New Testament is written in Greek. And so the people that are writing the New Testament, when they're quoting things, a lot of times they're quoting the Septuagint, not necessarily the Hebrew. You see where I'm going with this? So if you're quoting using, what was that Greek word again? Parthenos instead of Alma, you can get a different meaning there. You also have the issue of, in the book of Mark, Mark is known as the first written gospel. I know it's not the first in the order of the New Testament, but it was the one that was written first, and that the story of the virgin birth is not in Mark. It's in Matthew and it's in Luke, which were both written later. I don't know if that carries any weight or not, but but the way it the way it works is if if you're if you're using your Greek 200-year-old translation, or using Parthenos, it is going to, I don't want to use the word twist, but it is going to change your what what is how you interpret things. So it doesn't matter too much to me if Jesus is born of a virgin or not. I just, it's not the only reference for that, for a virgin birth in the whole Tanakh, is Isaiah 7:14, and that is, I hope I've proven that that idea, just, it's not there in the Hebrew. So, thanks.